Welcome to the future of space. Today we have Rachel Lyons. Rachel is the Executive Director of Space for Humanity, a nonprofit organization which aims to use the spaceflight experience as a way to expand our perspective on Earth. She's also a former vice chair of the board of directors of Students for the Exploration of Development of Space. Rachel, welcome to the future of space.
Thank you so much for having me, Daniel.
Now, before we get into the 3 words to describe space, I understand that you just got back from South by Southwest. How was it? I believe that space was quite a predominant topic theme of the event. How was it?
Yeah, it was. It was amazing. I love going to these events. I love going to these events that are much bigger than just space. And then there's like a space focus, and it always brings in new energy and talent and people, and as well as old friends. And um, there was an incredible overview effect panel that we had multiple astronauts speaking on, and it's a topic that I don't get tired of, and I was so excited to see it shared on this platform with this new audience. So yeah, I'm just excited about how space is catching on, and how many people are excited about what's next.
Wonderful to hear. Now, let's go with your 3 words to describe space. What would they be?
This is a really hard question. There's a lot of words that I would use to describe space. The first one that comes to mind is expansive. The second one that comes to mind is awe-inspiring. And the third one that comes to mind is life.
Do you think that the universe, not that we want to give a personality to the universe, but do you think that the universe in its whole is some kind of a living organism that it is life?
So it's a really, really good question. I would say that I can't make any claims about that from a scientific perspective, but from my own experience and thoughts and my own perspective on what it means to exist, I do think that, like, the reason that there's life on this planet is because there is life in the universe, and because there's something permeating, or like moving through the universe that wants to be alive and wants to thrive and evolve and grow into something. And even me saying wants is me putting anthropocentric. What's the word? Can you tell me?
Yeah. I think we'll afford ourselves to just butcher the word. But we know what Anthropocene is the word. So anthropomorphia, yes,
Something like
we'll
that.
keep
So
it
it's
at
like
there.
it's me putting the human perspective on it, because I don't think that the universe wants anything. I don't think that there's a want there. That's a human experience. But I do think that there's I think that there's a greater force that moves through all of life, and that is what life is, and is ultimately it is what is throughout the universe.
I do believe that there is a force and a mission to expand and connect. Life, that's the directive of life, to constantly push and see how we can evolve. I mean, we exist today, despite the fact that we started at these little single cells, and even the Earth, was totally inhospitable, and here we are. And it was not just this linear trajectory of one step after the other. It was just constantly creating disruptions. And for me, I think that I don't see why nature on Earth would be different than the nature of the universe. The rules of life that applies on Earth necessarily have to be the same in the universe, but on a scale that is totally different. And if life wants to connect on the planet, it also wants to connect in the universe. And there are other life resource rich planet in the universe that also have life has a desire to connect. So for the first time in 4.6 billion years, there's a species now that has a capacity to export or to take that life to a multiplanetary and fulfill that mission, that bigger mission of life to connect, but now on the universe level. But again, I totally agree with you. I don't want to give it a personality or a sense of, here's it has a conscious attitude of wanting to do things. It's just that there's a force in life that moves and wants to connect, and it applies both on Earth and onto the universe.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I would say, like, about my views on, becoming an interplanetary species. Like, for me, I think it goes much beyond about being about a nation, that's for sure. And being about, even just being about humans. Like, for me,
Mhm.
it's much bigger than being about humans. It's like you said, for the first time in the history of all of life as we know it, we have the capabilities with our brains to build the technology to have this go off planet and become interplanetary. And we don't know if that's ever been done in the universe before. I think it has. Like, I think it probably has, but we don't know. And and I think, like, if that's what life wants to do, which, again, putting the human words in there, but if that's the natural evolution of life, is to go and thrive in the universe, then why wouldn't we do it? You know?
It's We're not going to space because it's us wanting. We're going to space because life is always wanting to go to places. Like when the fish came out of the ocean, I'm not too sure that the fish was like, we're making a conscious decision of going to space, out of the water and risking everything to go on land. It somehow circumstances made it, and that they were like, oh, like a couple of individuals saw or found themselves into a place, and then it triggered a series of events and where they found their way out of the water. But life is always, whether it's us or a fungi, once they start to move their way through the soil, they're just going into everywhere that they can. And if they can't, it's not because it doesn't want to, it's just because it hasn't figured out how to get. So now that we have the capacity to go there, of course, we've been wanting to go there. It's been this giant blue space above our heads, but now for the first time, we have the tools to do it. And even if something happened today and the technology kind of took a step back, it would just be a pause to when we will be next in space. Did you Were you always fascinated in space even when you were young, or?
Yeah. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna answer that question. I just thought of one more word for space. Mystery. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm like in all of this, all we can do is guess and theorize and imagine. And that's also the beauty of it, is that it's this big expansive mystery that um we're only really beginning to understand with our human brains, which still there's so much that we there's a lot we can quantify, a lot that we can make sense of, like, it's amazing where a lot of this technology has gone in over the past few decades, to understand the universe and how it started and how things are formed. But ultimately, like, there's so many just big questions, like, we don't know. It is like the biggest mystery, some of the biggest mysteries of humanity.
It's going to be really interesting to see all the way that our storytelling or our stories adapt as we go to space, even on the religion aspect, the spiritual aspect, the science aspect, how our stories are going to have to, you know, reinvent themselves or redirect how, their position. Because obviously, on the religious aspect, there's a lot of questioning. They're going to be kind of presented to these beliefs, because before that it was kind of contained within the planet. But now, we go, what if we do find life on other planet? There's a lot of people who are going to have to kind of include that in their storytelling. It's going to be and our evolution is going to be, if we're a product of our own environment, as we change the environment, whether it's a gravity, whether it's a different gravity or different environments, the lack of gravity or change of gravity, it's going to affect the physiology of our biology. So there's so much. The I wrote how there's more evolution that happened in the last 600 million years than it did in the previous in 4.6 billion the previous 4 billion years. And in fact, the first 2 billions, it was like the single cell until the single cell became multicell. There's more, like as soon as it hit the multicell, evolution just really started to accelerate. And now we're going from single planet to multi-planetary, and you're going to have that same kind of quantum leap in evolution. And because we're going into a total different realm that's going to represent for evolution, so much more. Like you and I were seeing the beginning of it, but it's going to be such a wild ride.
Totally. It's so amazing. And then even like it's funny like 'cause from the perspective that you're talking about, Daniel, it's like so macro. Being like, wow, we've had more evolution in the past, you said 600,000 years than in so many before that. And then I think about it like, if we look about it from the in the human history perspective, which I think humans emerged like 200,000 years ago. I think most of our storytelling, like most of the stories that our cultures were created from, past like 2000-ish years. And and then I'm thinking about how science has actually, in some ways, proven some of those stories like obsolete or incorrect, and how so much of culture that's still around is based off of a lot of those stories. So, it's like how will we adapt you know, as we evolve? Will the stories evolve with it, and will that also require a new kind of thinking for us as humans?
I think that's part of the mission for Space Humanity, to encourage that change. I mean, Frank White gave a term to that experience, the overview effect, where it will invite and inspire a shift in cognitive awareness, because now you have a different perspective. From I think that exercise of perspective is happens every time that you leave where you come from. Whether you're in a little village, you go up into the mountain, and then suddenly you see the context and where your village is. You get into a plane, and now you start to see the context of your city, of the ocean, in connection with the others. But now getting into space, you see the planet in context with space, the scarcity of everything around, the blackness, of death, as William Shatner, describes. So it was like, you get death and you got life, but seeing it in context makes you appreciate the complexity and the fragility of life, but at the same time, the unity of all our stories come from this planet. So it's an experience that Space for Humanity has been encouraging and wanting to develop and offer opportunities for people to experience from.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And just to share a little bit more about me and then more about Space for Humanity. Um, so I'd never had an interest in space as a kid. It was something that I learned. Like, school was about memorizing facts and regurgitating information. And I didn't even really understand how to learn, because that's what learning was for me. Which for me, I'm like, that kind of shows, there's a problem with the education system, but we'll save that for another podcast episode. Um, and when I was 19 years old, I watched the first episode of Neil deGrasse Tyson's Cosmos with a childhood friend. And in it, he shows the scale of the universe. So he starts at the Earth and goes out to the solar system and the Milky Way galaxy and the local group of galaxies, now, and out to this quite unfathomable, observable universe. Like, I still, I have that image in my mind of that like giant web. I'm sure that many people watching have seen it, and it's crazy. And so by the time that episode was over, my life was just never the same. Like, my entire view of reality shifted, and suddenly I went from having a reality that was like me and my friends and my school and my family to like, whoa, I am a human on this miraculous, finite, vulnerable planet in this seemingly infinite universe that is literally so big that like it is really challenging for the brain to comprehend. It's something that it feels like it's something that you need to like really feel to try and understand. Yeah, and so I went into aerospace engineering, and soon after learned about the overview effect, as you were saying, and um, it was that concept that I was like, oh yeah, that's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm here. And then I met Dylan Taylor, the founder of Space for Humanity, and what and I've had the pleasure and the honor of working on this team since 2017. And so what we're working to do is sponsor people from all over the world to go to space commercially with Blue Origin or Virgin Galactic or Worldview or Space Perspective or vehicle agnostic, so they can have that overview effect experience and then come back down and be like seeds to go and share that perspective far and wide. And what drives us is fun. We believe fundamentally, in order to address all of our greatest challenges, to bring it down to now what feels a little more micro after such an expansive conversation, but like in order to address the biggest challenges that we face as humanity and the biggest challenges that we face in relationship with our planet, we all need to think bigger. We all need to look bigger. And this is also a perspective that we need to have if we want to become spacefaring, to create a culture that really works as well. So it's like we're not your standard nonprofit. We don't measure our success by, number of people that are given a meal in a day. Not that that's not important. That's extremely important. But the way we measure success is much more long term and complex and systemic. But it's by fundamentally starting with our minds. And it's almost like giving people a sense of humility. So it's like perhaps the stories that we've been living from actually aren't the truth. Like perhaps it's time for our stories to evolve in a way that's more like encompassing of all of humanity and all of life, and allowing that to shape culture and shape our relationship with each other and the planet.
I think you hit something that for me has been really, that's what I've been doing for the past 15 years with Feel the Wild, has been to tell the story of our species using nature as a framework for personal transformation, redefining that relationship, that story of humanity, but within nature, not separated from it. Nature is not this little fragile entity that needs to be saved, and us, we're the righteous species, who, if life is to subsist on Earth, is going to be because of us. No, life will continue. It's for us to decide the kind of world that we live in, but also we have a role to play on the planet. It's impossible to think that we're going to be 8 billion, or that we can exist on the planet without having an impact. We're meant to have an impact, but we have to understand this reciprocity and this participation in nature. We have to take, obviously, but then we have to give back. And we don't have to give back in the sense of, again, righteousness of saving. We have to give back because this is what happens in a relationship. This is what happens between two people. This is what happens between me and the environment. It's this constant symbiosis of, you know, exchange that happens. And going to space, it's also that story that now I'm trying to do. It's tell the human story of us within the space and that bigger context. So what you're saying with space for humanity, you know, just resonates with me on such a deep level. That's lovely.
Mm. Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, we're definitely doing some mission aligned work, and I'm excited to, like dive deeper into what you're working on as well.
I was both on the worldview and the space perspective, the concept of, because for the audience, even though you get to go up, these vessels don't really get to space. They get to 100,000 feet ish, which is a stratosphere, but it's high enough so that you get to experience the curvature of the Earth and the blackness of space, and you don't lose gravity. And for me, I do believe that it is one of the best ways to experience the overview effect and really to get that depth of experience. Because what happens when you go up in a rocket is that physically it's a physical experience. The G-force and then the loss of gravity, you start floating. Your brain is all over the place, but it's hard to look out the window because physically you're more focused on what you're experiencing. But when you're in a capsule and it's a gradual, you know, it takes 2 hours to rise up to the apogee, and then you cruise at 2 hours for 2 hours, and then you come back and you come down for 2 hours, and you're surrounded by people who can tell you how to process the information that you get to see, and your brain is focused on looking out the window and seeing it. For me, that's the best way that someone can. And on top of that, you can take children. You know, you can take young people. Imagine at 16 years old what it will be like seeing the Earth and seeing the awness of this planet, and then you come back to Earth and you're like, okay, now I'm ready for my for my life.
Yeah, it's all valuable. I mean, there's something I talk about a lot is like space. We're founded on the premise that space is a tool for transformation, and we need all of the tools that we can get right now. Whether that's suborbital spaceflight or stratospheric balloon or orbital or, going to a beautiful vista or traveling to other cultures or watching a documentary that shifts your paradigm. But we need all of the tools that we can get to really expand our minds. And yeah, so I think I'm in agreement with you that I think worldview and space perspective are really, they're onto something for sure. I mean, it's like depending on the flight and the provider, it's like anywhere from I think 4 to 12 hours. And so you're up there looking at the curvature of the Earth, and it also makes me think about what William Shatner said about death being on, the blackness of space, and then life is Earth, and the miracle that is. And the founder of my company, Dylan Taylor, he went to space in December with Blue Origin as well. And he started his panel at South by Southwest saying, a lot of people ask if you can get the overview effect on a suborbital spaceflight, and I'm here to tell you that yes, you can. And he went on to talk about how, and this actually feels like kind of like a different version of William Shatner, who because of him being an artist, it came out very poetic, and like dramatic in a very beautiful way. And what Dylan said is that Earth is like a portal, and we spend our lives thinking that what's normal in the universe is like this. It's like it's this, it's life, it's these beautiful blue skies and everything that everything like what our lives look like. But actually, what's normal in 99.99999% of the universe is really harsh and vast and dark and cold and all like no air, you can't breathe. That's what's normal in the universe. And so what he described Earth as is a portal, and that kind of feels similar to me. Like I think that's what William Shatner was getting at, is that you look in every direction otherwise, and it's like death. There's no life especially not visible to the human eye. I mean, there's no life that's visible with telescopes. We still haven't discovered any. Um, and that like it looks so it's like death in all directions, and you look down and it's this fragile, vulnerable planet. But Dylan said he said going out there and seeing it, it was like he looked at it like the way that you would see almost like a small puppy or a child, and and knowing that like this how vulnerable this thing is, and how precious it is, and how much like how much it gave him the desire to like to steward it and support it. And you're completely right that yes, like Earth will go on, humanity might not at some point, but Earth will. Um and it is like this moment, this like simple existence is like unfathomably precious. And so in order to like I think it's our responsibility to support that to the best of our abilities.
How important do you think it is to, like, Dylan obviously founded Space for Humanity before going to space. His narrative of the experience was already, the seeds were already there. And then, so when the experience happened, he knew where to put those words and those emotions when the dust started to settle. William Shatner is an expert at expressing the emotion of a moment. And on top of that, he had a career of that space narrative. I spent a big portion of my career trying to create a new story when people go to nature, because you can go to nature all your life and never seeing a certain perspective of it, because the people that are with you are always just feeding that same story. As we go to space, and if we want people to experience and being able to process with the depth that it has, one of the things that is really important is to make sure that they have that structure with them, that they get that training. As much as we train them physically or security with safety, it's also important to give them a foundation on how to 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 experience what they're going to see, because otherwise it's just going to kind of, get the Earth, it's amazing, but I don't know exactly what to do. um, is it also something at Space for Humanity that you guys understand the importance of the story before they go up?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. So I mean, 100%. It's so important. And we've had, I think I might have shared this with you, Daniel, but we've had 7,000 people apply to this first round from more than 100 countries and nations. And,
Yeah.
this is like the most diverse group of people that I could imagine. I could go through like 10 applications, and there's like 6 different countries represented from all over the world. And, people who have like done on the grounds work in Myanmar, and a Mongolian astronomer, and a person who is a paraplegic, and another who's too young to even be applying to our program, but I'm so glad that they're applying to our program. You know what I mean? So it's just incredible, and really what we're looking for is people who, as I said, be like seeds to go and share this perspective far and wide. And um, we're committed to an inclusive selection process. So we want mission alignment. We want people who get this and who represent the mission well. Obviously, we don't want people who are going to be using this experience in a negative way, or to like to forward messages that we aren't aligned with. But we also want to empower everyone's unique perspective. We want people who are addressing some of our greatest challenges. So whether that's people who are working to address climate change or poverty or access to education, but we want like that's what like diversity means, diversity of passion and diversity of thoughts, you know, and as well as socioeconomic economic status, and um, where they're from, and um, their age, amidst a number of other things. But um, yeah, so we're committed to really supporting these people and getting like I do think the people that we select are already going to have pretty clear messages. Like they're already going to have pretty clear work that they're doing in the world. And we're committed to helping them prep for their space flight, to get their minds ready. As you know, Frank has studied, there's certain psychological traits that make someone more susceptible to really transformative experiences. So we want to help them get ready for that. Because you can't just go into a transformative experience, you know, without any training for it, without any preparation. And then we'll help them in integrating it, because it's also like sometimes when someone really, I don't know if, like, I'm sure you've had your own paradigm shifting experiences, but I've had some where I, after them, it's hard for me to come back, and it's hard for me to, make sense of this new version of reality when, just yesterday it looked different. So we're committed to helping these people come and make sense of it and integrate it into their lives, and then ultimately be able to carry it out via stories and impact projects and work of their own.
You just had a major, I mean, last year was a defining year for Space for Humanity, because you started to get, I mean, beyond the Dylan support, there was a lot more funding that came in, which give you the opportunity to create the application, the opportunity for astronauts. The process, if I remember correctly, opened a month ago or something, and it was on for a couple of weeks. You received 7,000 applicants from all around the world. Now you're in a selection process. What is the timeline, and what's gonna happen with these 7,000? And you're gonna bring it down to how many? And when are we looking to get some names or some winners, and what's gonna happen with them?
So basically, we hope we're working to select people in the next 6 months, and it will be ready by then. But we are still waiting to confirm when our first flight is going to be. So we want to get that, we want to get that fully clear before we make any announcement about who our first crew is. So we do have a flight. We have flight number one reserved with Worldview. We have a flight reserved with Space Perspective, and then we're in conversations with both Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin. But ultimately, we want to be able to fly in the next year and a half, and both Space Perspective and Worldview, it's looking like it'll be 2024. So we're now internally working on how to make that happen. And so once we have that fully clear and committed, and a first date on the calendar, we'll announce our first crew.
And these winners, I think the proper word would be more. They become ambassadors, because they are given a responsibility. Yes, they will go up and experience something, but they have a job when they come back, is really to become ambassador to the experience, the overview effect, and values of Space for Humanity, and then they have responsibilities. Correct?
Exactly. Yes. So we want people who they'll have at least a year long commitment to going and being ambassadors for this mission and for Space for Humanity and for this worldview. And it is my hope, as well as the team's hope, that these people commit themselves to sharing this perspective for the rest of their lives. Like this, as I said, the impact of this mission is long term. It's complex. It's systemic, and it doesn't end. It doesn't end just a year after. It's like these things. A true paradigm shift that like, if I have a paradigm shift, my life is never the same after that. And so we do hope and trust that these people will be lifelong ambassadors.
Is there going to be there plans? I mean, right now, obviously, Virgin Galactic, Blue Origin, SpaceX all have, because it's a dangerous endeavor. So obviously, there's a minimum age restriction. Worldview and Space Perspective are looking into, obviously, offering that experience to a much younger age. The FAA officially is 18, but we believe that 16 will be feasible. How important is it to create opportunities for younger people? Because obviously, the impact that it's going to have on their in their lives, and how much they can apply that impact. Obviously, the investment is, much more interesting. Is Space for Humanity has a desire to really, as soon as the opportunity is there, to really kind of push for younger people?
Yeah, so really good question, Danielle. And um, so yeah, right now you do have to be 18 or older to apply to our program, just because of the constraints of the flight providers. You also need to be able to speak English, because that's also a constraint with the flight providers. Um, and yeah, I mean, we've had, I don't even know what the youngest applicant is for us. We're not measuring that, because you're supposed to be 18 or older, but we've had people in their early teens. I think we've had like people that are 11. I love that they're applying. I love that they're finding us and wanting to be involved with us. And we definitely want to have opportunities for young people in the future. And I mean, that's why we're grateful for organizations that are doing work, that are committed to inspiring young people and getting them involved in space. There's a lot of different types of support programs that, like, I was just talking to one of my friends who's in her mid 20s and is now a leader in the industry. Um, and she said that that happened because of different support programs that she had when she was younger, that like she was able to work underneath amazing people and like be trained into this position. And so it makes a really big difference to start young. And I'm lucky, for me, because I was 19 when I discovered my love for space. And I just like I met the right people that went out of their ways to help make it possible for me. And so I think, you know I don't, if that hadn't happened, I don't know what I would be doing right now.
I think it's one of the, the you realize what people end up doing in life is not necessarily what they wanted to do, or the interest that they started with is more the people that came in their lives, the opportunities that presented themselves and kind of made it easier rather than like struggling your way forward. Talking to Nicole Stott, great. She wanted to be a pilot. Her father was a pilot. He passed away, but she already had the environment that supported her interest. So it kind of made it easier. We know that there is a tremendous interest for younger people to go into space. And I think one of the things that we need to do is to remove the frictions between their interest and their desire to go into STEAM, the science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. So removing the friction so that the environment become more conducive to answer to their interest, as opposed to make it more complicated.
Yeah, and I would also say that there's a lot of people. There's like that phrase, like, yeah, the rocket scientist phrase, like, it's not rocket science, or like, there's a lot of people who they make the assumption that it's like you need to be really like above a certain IQ to work in the space industry. Um and I work with so many brilliant people. Like, of course, like, of course, there are brilliant people working here. And I'm like, for me, I believe it it's almost like I'll call it like a stigma that makes it so that people don't allow themselves to enter it. And I feel like allowing yourself to work in space, it's more of like a mindset. It's like a willingness to be humble. It's a willingness, it's like the Carl Sagan quote that says, like, it's like astronomy is the most humbling. It's something about it being a very humbling field. Um, you need to be willing to be humble and to have humility, and because you're also realizing that we're part of something so much greater, and that kind of can like break down a lot of barriers that we create that keep us separate. And so I think that feels like the biggest thing that will enable more people to work in STEAM and in space, is just really like letting themselves do it.
Is there like with Axiom and some of the private space stations that are going up, and obviously at one point there's going to be settlements on the moon. is there a desire for Space for Humanity to also offer those opportunities to spend more time in space, or on the moon, going in and spend having an artist or someone to spend 5 6 days on the space station, or even going to the moon? Are you planning to evolve as the opportunities evolve also?
Definitely. Yeah, that's definitely a desire for us. Yeah. So right now we're looking just at stratospheric. We brought we did a parabolic flight last year, so we started there. We're looking at stratospheric, we're looking at suborbital. We would, of course, yeah, we definitely want to go orbital, space stations, moon. We've talked about Mars even. But right now we're focused on the stratospheric and suborbital, and excited to evolve with our goals as the industry evolves as well.
Would you go live on the moon for a little bit if the opportunity presented? Yeah.
Totally. Yep, yep. I would go. Yeah, it's funny. So my ultimate life's goal, which this goal got created probably like when I first entered the space sector. I don't even know how, I came up with this, but my ultimate life goal is to throw a party on the moon. And most of the time when I share that with people, the response is, "Can I be invited?" Or "I want to go." And I'm like, yeah, like, it's gonna have to be a really big party. We're gonna have to have some really big facilities, but that's my ultimate goal. So I'm cheering on all the companies that are working on the moon bases and the moon projects and the transportation to the moon, because I'm holding out for that party.
I often ask people the question, if what would be their reaction when we start to seeing lights from our presence, from settlements on the moon, when obviously, the darker side of the moon at night, there's going to be, I think, a possibility to see, oh, we can see the lights from Moon City or something like that. I personally, I'm looking forward that day, because it's going to be this obvious reminder of how far we've come. Like, we can see the ISS if you use a telescope, but you have to look for it. But having that visual of presence, human presence on the moon, it's, for me, it's like, it's not going to take anything away from the moon itself. It's just, it is us. And I was talking to Jen and Ivy, and we were laughing because we saw a commercial for Coke, because Coke came out with their Starlight Starlight drink, and we imagined this commercial of a little boy on the moon and a little boy on the planet Earth, and they would communicate via light signals, and then they would meet at halfway, on the station, and they would share they would share a Coke.
Mm,
So
I love that. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, imagine, like, I'm thinking about, like, when airplanes go by with like the little messages at the tail. Like, I wonder, they would have to be very powerful lights, but what if we like did that from the moon? Even
absolutely.
just like a simple hello.
Yeah. We know there's going to be an art installation at some point.
Yeah.
Now, Rachel, if people want to know more about Space for Humanity, even though the application to become an astronaut is closed, there's a mailing list that they can put themselves on. Where can they go and get more information?
Yeah, so I will just say about the application. So yeah, we closed those in mid-February, and we plan to reopen in future years. So we want to make this, we're working to make this an annual thing. And so after our first flight, we'll be able to start doing that. So we'll reopen our applications likely around early 2023. Um, and that's one way, is that they can just, yeah, get on our email list, go to spaceforhumanity.org and scroll to the bottom and put your email on the email list. We're pretty active on social media. If they want to follow us, our account is on Instagram and Twitter's at Space Humanity. They can look us up, Space for Humanity, on other platforms. And yeah, I would say the best way is just to get on our email list, and then we'll keep them updated on all the things.
We'll put all the links and the information, both to your profile on LinkedIn if people want to connect with you, and also for Space for Humanity, and all the different social media platform.
And I'll also say that we have a store as well. We launched it probably a year ago now, but we've got some really cool designs in there. So if people want to publicly rock their support for this mission, then we've got lots of options for them.
Well, I did send my own personal application to become an astronaut. So who knows? Maybe I'll be the one with the Space for Humanity T-shirt.
It's very possible.
Very possible. That would be wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Rachel, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much. This is exciting. I love the values and the story of Space for Humanity. Obviously, we share a lot of the understanding of the power of going to space and what it can do to the human story, both for our perspective of life, but also for the science and technology. So I'm excited to as you and I, we know each other, and we'll work together as making this a powerful experience for everyone.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me, Danielle. It was great to chat.
Until we see each other in real life, take good care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.